Okay. Um, Before we start, could you please start by introducing yourself and what your venture is that you're working at right now?
Sure thing. Well, my name is Arnav, and I'm the founder and CEO of Dine. We are a restaurant tech company that specializes in AI and provides a lot of business insights and data analytics to restaurants. We started back in 2022, where I was a UBC student, and today we have scaled the company across approximately 10 different cities, and we have over 1,000 odd clients. We are also backed by Microsoft, which makes things a little bit fun and exciting. So I'm happy to share along the journey as well as, go ahead with the interview. So yeah,
Thank you so much for telling me a little bit about
yeah,
Dine and yourself.
yeah.
Um, to move on, what's your story? What inspired you to start Dine, and how did your time at UBC and your experiences shape your entrepreneurial journey?
Right, of course. So I guess my story begins way back when I was 17 years old, back in 2017. So I
Mhm.
come from India, the eastern part of India, from Odisha. It's a tribal dominant state. And I traditionally had a startup of my own there, which I exited to a company called Tata. Tata is a global conglomerate, you
Yeah.
must be knowing. So my first exit was with Tata. And that kindled my spirit of entrepreneurship that I was helping and managing a team of 56 people and helping over 1.6 million students in India at 16 lakhs, which is not much, but still, in the
That's
Western world,
actually
a lot.
huge.
So that got me to understand things of team management, leadership, as well as understanding how tech platforms are built. Nevertheless, I always utilize the exit money as my self-funded scholarship to UBC. So in 2018, I make my way to UBC where I was a sort of student going to pursue my degree in both business and computer science. So there's a program called Bucks, Business
Yeah.
and Computer Science in Sauder. And I initially was part of it. And over the years in UBC, I was involved in a lot of different entrepreneurial roles. So I started out as one of the youngest entrepreneurship directors with AMS as well, and I mentored about 45 odd startups, and I helped them raise over $5 million in terms of getting started with their businesses. So I've been the CEO, I've been the intern, I've seen the nastiness of how complex
Mm.
things can be. And through that process, I got introduced to various platforms like Innovation UBC, I6, as well as E at UBC, and a couple of more forums around the UBC ecosystem, where I was able to work in terms of different ideas and understand how startups are scaling. Towards the latter part of the pandemic, where the pandemic was ending and all,
Yeah.
we some of my friends and I, we had this idea of connecting people over the love of food, because
Mhm.
we had been socially distant for a long time. There was a lot of lockdowns and all, and as the world was getting back to normal, we thought of bringing back the connection and bringing some social meetups. So we started with the concept of Dine, which was to bring together users, like essentially cast people over the love of food. And that started in UBC as a mobile app. We got over 30,000 users in just about 2 months, and a lot of events were happening, and it was quite exciting. However, what we saw was that as we dealt with these events, these platform in initial discovery, we saw the restaurants and actually the people in hospitality, cafes, pubs, bars, restaurants, whatever you can call it, were suffering a lot. The reason being they
Mhm.
had no business for over 2 years. And the fact was they were facing loss of staff, loss of income, loss of bankruptcy, and these guys were almost going to shut down. So we
Mhm.
said, what if we can actually help our partners, and how can we uplift this industry? And the main thing came out that the restaurant owners and the operators did not know few basic things like marketing automations, utilizing Instagram, Facebook to publish their businesses. They did not know how P&L statements, forecasting
Mhm.
on finances work. So we said, why can't we do consulting? So while Dine was doing, let's say, meetups with people initially, I started on a personal basis to help some restaurant owners. And that started with a simple Excel sheet and maybe one professor from Sauder helping me out. And fast forward 1.5 years, we have built Dine and redefined Dine as a machine learning company that empowers restaurants with the decision making abilities. We process a little north of 1 billion data points every single day. And we help everything from the mom and pop shops in our campus to even the larger chains like Starbucks today to take intelligent decisions on pricing strategies, marketing automations, revenue optimization, sales trends, and much more. So we scale this infrastructure, of course, through my time at UBC. And of course, I graduated last year, and still UBC holds very dear to me because This entire thing was built by UBC students. My two co-founders were in engineering, and these guys were friends from first year, but we never had a chance to work together. So some courses in UBC allowed us to build this through our capstone projects. Like there are courses like
Mhm.
CDL and New Venture Design in Sorder, which allows you to work with actually different faculties. So we actually took the course together, which allowed us the time, like, 6 to 8 months to also get credits, but also build this platform on the side to scale it out. And of course, accelerators like E at UBC and,
Yeah.
Innovate BC and all allowed us forums and opportunities to meet with mentors, investors, and start our prep so that we were able to now go into the Vancouver ecosystem. And that's where, we went above and beyond UBC's landscape and started scaling it across Canada now. So yeah.
Oh my God, that's also impressive to hear. You've actually answered so many of my questions already. So,
Okay, that's good to know.
yeah, a lot of my questions are just done. But to get back to what you just said, could you maybe elaborate a little bit about the entrepreneurial environment at UBC for people who are wanting to start something there?
So
What
the thing
all
is,
resources are there for them?
I mean, I'll be honest in this, and you can definitely quote me on it. But
Mhm.
uh, the fact is, UBC's ecosystem is a blessing as well as a curse. The reason it's a blessing is because, especially for international students, there's a
Mhm.
diverse range of options as well as a lot of different courses, and there's a lot of opportunities which you can explore. But at the same time, the curse is that you have to navigate all through yourself,
Yeah.
and there's not a lot of things where you are getting a lot of guidance or mentorship. But I was a Harry Potter fan, I still am, and there was this very famous Harry Potter saying that help is given to those in Hogwarts who ask for it, which means
Mhm.
that you have to go and ask people in UBC. So unless and until you get out of your comfort zone and you go and start knocking on the doors and you start discussing your idea and you start out pitching and going out in the open, you will not get help from the UBC community because there's too many people. There's like 60,000 students on campus. So how will you get noticed? So the fact is, the UBC entrepreneurial ecosystem, I divided into three categories. There are the student clubs as well as student programs, e-projects, or let's say biz hacks, and let's say these hackathons, case competitions. These are great platforms to meet like-minded individuals and discuss early ideas. This is most likely the place you will find your teammates or co-founders, but this is not the place where you can build a company. The second stage is all the accelerators and incubators. AMS has some programs, E at UBC has some programs, and certain of the faculties as well. Like let's say, I know computer science has I6. They have
Mhm.
Hatch incubator program with E at UBC, which essentially allows you to scale a prototype and product in the facility as well. Sorter has some programs like CDL, which allows you to discuss those ideas, work in teams and all to build on it. New venture design as well as a course which can do it. So certain faculties have that. And this is essentially the second tier where you discuss the idea, you take it one step further. The third part essentially is Hatch, which is the final stage of E at UBC, where you actually go to market with your product. And this is where you get mentors, industry professionals, as well as investors to come in and help you. Because let's be honest, students are broke. If they had,
Right.
millions of dollars in the pocket, they would not be, being students. They would be doing something else.
Absolutely, I get that.
Investors, and you need an entry into the market, and that's where the last stage comes in, where you
Mhm.
find go through a program and get it done. So while this is a step approach and people can scale through it, I have mentored a lot of companies, I still do help a lot of my friends go through it. It is a time consuming process, and I've seen a lot of other places, which is essentially, let's say, like the Bay Area. Like we are so close to the West Coast, and I have so many friends. I myself was part of Y Combinator and let's say Google startups and Microsoft startups as well. I've seen those environments. The thing is, the city as well needs to appreciate it. Now, the thing with UBC is that UBC has some connections with Vancouver, but the ecosystem of Vancouver ecosystem versus UBC's ecosystem is cut off. There still needs to be a lot of opportunities for students to integrate in this, and
Mhm.
unfortunately, whatever happens in UBC stays in UBC, and whatever happens in Vancouver stays in Vancouver. So the thing is, that is not a problem for a student to fix. It's rather a thing which, let's say, the people who are involved in the community, including myself, have to do it. So that's why whenever students reach out to me, I'm like, even if I'm an alum, I would love to bridge that gap. Like I like to tell them what's happening in the ecosystem here in Vancouver, like what events are happening, what forums are there, and can students take part in this, because otherwise they're just limited to the UBC ecosystem. So that's like that's the pond and this is the ocean. Whereas, let's say, in other cities, like if I see Toronto, if I see California, if I see New York and others, these guys actually work with their academic institutions and the forums and
Mm-hmm.
platforms to encourage the entrepreneurial, mindset, that even if you're a student, you can still be considered as an entrepreneur. You're not considered as a student. And the biggest issue with Vancouver as a whole, and that's why I said, I mean, some people will say that I'm wrong in this, but I particularly feel that you are either categorized as a student or you're categorized as an entrepreneur. I don't understand, why can't you be both? Why can't you be a student
Right,
entrepreneur?
right.
So that's the question I asked myself for like 2 or 3 years. I redefined it to an extent. I was the rebel kid. I did something different. But till date, I see that being one of the questions with most
Mm-hmm.
of the UBC students who are starting out, that they're scared. They're scared that this will have to come as a choice. Whereas I'm like, it's not a choice. You can do both the things as well. You just need to be smart about it. You need to be honest with yourself and take that chance, take that risk. And it's fine. You're still young. It's nothing, like nobody's going to blame you for it. So you can still learn through it. So yeah, that's that.
Okay, thank you so much for that. That's again touched up on a lot of my questions already.
Yeah.
Um, Coming back to your the way you've just given so much advice for people who are wanting to start up
Yeah.
as like start their own ventures. One
Yeah.
question that comes up is what are some common misconceptions that students, or not even students, just people who are wanting to get into business or entrepreneurship, have about this industry? And what do you have to say about that?
Students especially always ask me one question, and it's a very valid question, is we have an amazing idea. We don't know where to begin, and we don't have the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
They are always scared that building on an idea while being in university means that you have to drop out. And this is essentially a stereotype or a myth we have stated in our friend circles or even ecosystem, that you have to drop out and you have to be like, let's say, like Steve Jobs, or let's say, Mark Zuckerberg, who leaves
Mm-hmm.
university and do it. And sometimes students have to take that risk. However, I beg to differ, because I still graduated with honors and I was able to build a startup. And trust me, I'm not a very sharp kid. I was average kid. And it's fine. I would have spent this much of time in my co-ops. I would have spent this much of time in my internships and everything. I was able to make the time. The way people need to look into this is, everybody has the same 24 hours, and we spend,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, most of the day as a student studying, doing assignments, and getting some work done. If we're able to maintain a discipline and, let's say, give even 2 hours a day towards the idea we are really passionate about, consider that as a hobby. Like, in high school, you used to do extracurricular activities like go to a
Right.
sports class, coaching, or dance, music, something, parents always pushed you towards
Mm-hmm.
it.
Mm-hmm.
In this case, if you can push yourself and you can be disciplined, your business will thrive. You need to take 2 hours a day or something to just understand, why is this so important. Go and talk to people, meet some friends who are like-minded, and ask them to build a team, start on a project. And if that is possible, this is where you start those initial discussions in university. And trust me, university is a very safe place because it's all about learning. So you're
Right.
scared of failing and you're scared of building a business. Well, the only way to learn is by doing things. And because you're in university, nobody's going to blame you. Everybody will say that it's fine because you can still work on your career. You can still apply to that job. You're just, 20 years old, plus minus 2 years or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you're in your 20s, you're in your early 20s. You have your entire life ahead of you. But rather, consider this: fast forward 10 years, you're in your 30s. Now you have a family to support. You're scared that
Mm-hmm.
if I leave my job, how will my family get, money and food on the table? You can't take that decision at that point. It's much easier to take the decision right now because you have nothing much to lose other than your time. And trust me,
Right.
you're a young person. You can have time later in your life as well. So when people tell me, how do we start? We are scared of, whether this will affect my academics or it will, we don't have enough time to do it. We have a huge course load. Well, trust me, if you were going on a co-op, you would have taken a lighter course load. You would have, let's say, spread out your degree a little bit more. That's fine. You take a co-op. Why? Because you need industry experience and you need internships to get a good job. Why can't you give that time to yourself and actually work on something for yourself? Nobody's going to question you on it. And you are already okay
Mm-hmm.
with the concept of co-op. Why are you not okay with the concept of co-op for yourself? Like, can you not spare, let's say, 6 months or even like 8 months to yourself to build on something you truly believe in and you're truly passionate? And in case it fails, it's completely fine. You learned something very crucial, which you could not have learned in later part of the life. And trust me, a lot of students usually find it difficult as well to do it alone. So I always say that alone you can go fast, but you can't go far, which means that if you want to walk far further, you have to work in teams. You have to divide the responsibility, you have to give people the credit, and you have to start working with each other, because otherwise you are just working on your own and you're taking a lot of stress, and which is not helpful. Rather, working in a team is much more fun. You get to learn new things, you get to share these memories and these experiences. And in your difficult moments, let's say a midterm deadline is coming up or your assignment is due at 12 o'clock,
Right.
it's okay. Your co-founder might help you out in something else as well. So this is where, I always say university is a great time because you can work with your friends, you can work with like-minded individuals, and actually gain that experience when coming as a student entrepreneur.
All of that makes really a lot of sense. I get why you think all of that. I'm able to actually
Yeah.
put myself in those shoes as well because I'm also venturing into something of my own. But let's not delve into that.
Okay.
Um, Driving off of the answer that you've just given, particularly for the UBC students, well, just students in general. But I'd like to actually bring it to alumni because I'm aware that UBC has certain options for people who've already graduated to
Yeah.
also come back and have the mentorship or
Yeah.
some sort of guidance to
Yeah.
actually begin their own ventures. What
Yeah.
would you say to them?
Honestly, it's a great opportunity. So right now, as I speak, I'm part of the alumni UBC community
Yeah.
as well. I do guest lectures in Sauder, and I speak with students in entrepreneurship courses. I'm also invited to E8 UBC to do mentoring sessions, and that's out of voluntary side. So yes, alumni are always welcome back. And trust me, UBC tries to reach out to more and more alumni. However, it's sometimes the difficult part is everybody after graduating is too busy in their lives, especially the first. So here's the thing, I always mention this to some of my friends. If you see alumni in any university, usually you will find mentors and alumni who have graduated over 10 or 15 years ago. And
Right,
the thing
right.
is, they are not the most relevant because they graduated a decade ago. They don't know
Mm.
what's happening with, let's say, the students here. Like, trust me, like, I met a few folks when I was coming to university. They did not know we used to use Canvas. And today, most of the people also don't know that we have stopped using Canvas and we have moved to Workday. And we
Yeah.
have also, that UBC is changing its systems. The fact is that if you connect with alumni who have free time, well, these guys are 10 or 15 years above because they have graduated, they have built their career, and now they are
Mhm.
free. That's why they want to come and give back the time. But the people who are more relevant are the alumni who have just graduated within the
Right,
first 3 4
right.
years because they know the job market, they know the entrepreneurial market, they know exactly what's happening right after graduation. So their feedback is at least, if not anything, 10 times more relevant to a graduating student or any student in UBC. So because today, if anyone, the reason I'm called back for guest lectures and I say yes is because any student in their third or fourth year will relate with me directly because I look almost the same. I'm 24 years old. These guys are 23 or 24 almost as well. The fact is, I have done the same courses. I have legit had the same professors as well. And it makes more sense for alumni at a younger stage to get involved. However,
Mhm.
the traditional sense of any university, I'm not just commenting on UBC, is that it wants to acknowledge and honor alumni who are older, which means that if you
Right.
are an alumni for 25 years, if you're an alumni who gave back $1 million to, some scholarship grant or something,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
it's completely fine. I get that. And, the art of giving is always there. Like, I also want to consider that when I grow old and I am a little bit stable in my career, maybe I'll give back to the university as well. But again, will I be relevant to the mentorship aspect? Will I be still, connected to my roots where I started? So that's a question I always ask. But it is true. It's not just me. A lot of my friends as well stay in touch with our professors, stay in touch with our alumni coordinators, and we try to give back in any way possible. If there are opportunities, and we should ask the students in this case, like, you guys know of any opportunities where you would like to see alumni come back, invite us. We are always free. Like, all it takes is essentially a message, like on Instagram, Facebook, email, whatever it is, we will respond. Like,
Definitely.
I will bet my money on this. If anyone reaches out to me, I try my best to respond within at least 1 or 2 days because I want to make sure that I'm available. Because when I was in university, this was one of the biggest challenges I had, that I
Oh,
did not have.
definitely. The proof is right here. You and I interacting is because of
Exactly, exactly. So
getting this
one reach out
done.
is all it takes. And trust me, like, I tried this in university, and exactly 2 or 3 years ago, I was struggling with it because I was like, okay, people are not that busy. Like, why can't
Mhm.
people make 30 minutes? And I was like, it's fine. So there are opportunities, there are ways to do this. It's about essentially whether the university can support this or whether students can support it. Even if the university can't do it, can the students start taking that first step as well? bring the alumni back, or alumni is
Mhm.
also, helping the students along the way, because we are always happy to help each other. There's no, transaction in this involved. So it's all
Right.
out of free time. So it's all good. Yeah.
Um, yeah, thank you so much for going
Yeah.
into that and talking about it. I actually absolutely love your perspective on whatever that you've said so far. But I'd like to circle back to your journey and Dine and how it all
Yeah.
started at UBC.
Sure.
So a question for you that states that goes around the similar path is
Right.
how exactly did partnering with on E at UBC? I'm aware that there was some. I'm not exactly sure what happened, what steps you took when you started Dine, but
Yeah.
I'm aware that you went
Yeah.
into
All
working
good.
with E at UBC.
Right.
So how did that help?
So EATBC is an accelerator program, essentially
Right.
incubator and accelerator. What they do is they essentially pair you up with mentors, and they walk you through a stage of how a startup should be built as well as scaled.
Mhm.
So one of the things which EATBC helped Dine was give it the initial cocoon or structure. So they sat with us and they taught us essentially how founders should work with each other. They explained,
Right.
let's say, how do you go and talk to your customers? What does a market validation, customer discovery mean? How does the process look like? And having other startups do the same thing around you gives you the confidence as well that you're part of a community. So
Right.
EATBC has been two things: A, give the structure, and B, give the community. So a lot of founder friends I have in Vancouver are EATBC graduates or alum as well. And the same way, they also gave us the structure that we were able to build the team and build the initial framework. But of course, the work has to be done by us. And once we essentially go through the program, we are on our own. Like right now, we are on our own and we are trying to scale it. And it actually gives a lot of support to people who come from technical backgrounds, because a lot of founders, especially in UBC, might have an might not have, let's say, accounting backgrounds or legal or finance backgrounds.
Right.
Now, which means that when you're starting a business, you need those support as well. And that's where the mentors actually come in to help. And similarly, when, let's say, I was a business student, I did not know much about technology. I was able to meet my co-founders, work on the technical structures, and get that clarity on how to scale a company. So that's why EIGBC helped us. We were part of the program for almost a year now. And we went through different phases. So we went through
Mhm.
a venture builder program, then towards Hatch, which is the top 10 or top 50 startups for UBC every year. And then finally, we graduated through that and came into the Vancouver ecosystem. We raised some funds, and now we have scaled across Canada, US, and everything. And now even Microsoft is backing us up.
Right.
So it has been quite a journey. But yes, the starting was that we did go and ask them for help. They helped us in getting the structure, the community. So you felt like, you are not alone doing this. And that's very important in entrepreneurship, because trust me, this journey is going to be very lonely. You need friends, you need people who can at least talk to you as well as help you and support you in any way possible. So that's a big kudos.
Right. I know entrepreneurship can literally be compared to a roller coaster. There's like so many
It
ups and
is.
downs. There's so many challenges, so many things to
Yeah.
come up with, and there's always companies always something that would help with something like that.
Yeah.
So I love that there's a big community at UBC for you to start and work.
Yeah.
Again, going back to the roller coaster point, there's bound to be challenges when you start something, and there's bound to be challenges when you start anything for that matter, not just a business venture.
Yeah.
What are some challenges that you faced when you were establishing Dine, and how did you overcome them?
So the first thing is, it's not just Dine. I say this to a lot of student entrepreneurs. No one will believe in you. Trust me,
Right.
my professors didn't believe in me. My parents said no. My friends said no. And it was at least 100 rejections before I got my first maybe. And maybe this is an idea which can work out. So the biggest challenge which you will have is that when people are giving up on you as well as
Mhm.
everybody else is saying no, you'll feel demotivated. And you'll also constantly question, is this worth it, because I'm putting my education at risk? At that time, the only solution you have is finding that team. And trust me, the team was my biggest support, because me alongside my co-founder helped each other through these ups and downs.
Right.
When I was low, he was the one, and giving me the motivation and saying that this can work out. And your willpower comes back and you understand why you started this. So
Right.
never forget why you started something, why you wanted to help those people. And today, let's say Dine has scaled into a little north of 1,000 restaurants, but I still make it a weekly or bi-weekly habit to go to the first restaurant I started working. And I take my friends there, I take my team there, because when I go to that restaurant, I actually see that, this restaurant was about to shut down. And there's a reason why this restaurant is working, and the owner always gives me free food. I mean, that's a perk. But at the same time, I always see and I realize, why did I start this business? Like today,
Right.
yes, we are making millions, but why did I start this? Why was I so passionate? And how has it scaled? Because that gives you the clarity when you are saying no to everything else. And trust me, even if people don't believe in you today, they will see what you have worked for. They will not see the journey, but they will see that, okay, this guy said something a couple of years ago and today he has done this. It is a journey that matters. It's not the destination. So when anybody is starting out on entrepreneurship, it's going to be a roller coaster. It's going to be quite lonely. You need some people next to you, and that is your team. Could be co-founders, could be your team members, could be your investors, your mentors, whoever it is. You need to find that someone to build with and to work through that process with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. Yes, thank you so much for answering that.
Yeah.
I will again come back to what you're
I
already
do
doing.
have a solid 1 or 2 minutes because I have another meeting. So let's do a quick rapid fire of
Yes,
questions.
yes. It's just the last
Yeah,
one or two questions. So, what are
sure.
your
Let's
next
do it.
steps for Dine in terms of growth and new developments?
So, of course, I am scaling down across US. We have
Yeah.
built our team, and now Microsoft has backed us. Microsoft named us the top 5 global startups for hospitality and retail, which means that we are backed in terms of the tech as well as a little bit of support from our investors on funding. So we are going towards the US expansion and scaling out to another potential 10 different states in the US market. So Texas, New York, Chicago, California, and all is in the 2025 radar. We are, of course, considering partnering up with some bigger companies as well in terms of seeing the growth coming in. So Oracle is one of them, Cisco is another one, which we're
Mhm.
discussing this. So it's all about building those collaborations and partnerships and scaling through it. Personally, as well, I have always loved my concept of serial entrepreneurship. So while being in
Right.
UBC, I also launched my second company. So remember how I mentioned there were courses in Sorted which allowed you
Yeah.
to work on startups. So my second startup as well launched on its own, and it is being run by a complete different team. So I'm more of an advisor there, and I'm still, helping them grow. But scaling that across into the sustainability and environmental landscape is something I'm quite excited about as well. So yeah, it has been quite fortunate for me in Vancouver that I'm blessed with 2 startups scaling on their own. Dine, of course, is a little older as well as a little bit more mature, which means that it is getting new opportunities and scaling
Right.
fast. The other one is still getting its roots and understanding the team structure and dynamics. Like I said, everything needs a little bit of time, but of course,
Mhm.
quite excited for that as well.
That's great to hear. I'm excited to see your journey continue. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for giving me your time and
Yeah,
answering these questions.
always,
Um,
always a pleasure. And in case you have any follow-ups, just text me as well, drop me an email.
Definitely.
I'll be happy to answer some questions. And I hope your assignment goes well. Keep me posted if any development, and stay in touch as well. I'm always happy to help
Yes,
and
I would
always
love
happy
to
to
stay
share.
connected. Yes. Thank you so much for your
For
time
sure.
and have a great day.
All right. Have a good one as well. Cheers. Bye bye.